All right, what's up, guys? Welcome into the Power G Show on a Wednesday of kickoff week. I'm Graham Coffey. That is your guy, George Faust. Sorry, Big Faust Dog. This is what I was about to say. Yeah. So here we are, man. It is it's late August, and we're getting ready to kick off versus Clemson. You and I are here. Yeah, you and I are here, together at the moment. We are not without our boy Lamar, which is a bummer, really, because we love our guy Lamar. But yeah, he's got some stuff going on this fall that he needs to be present for. So he may jump in with us. We've told him that he's got an open invite.
You never know.
You never know.
We might have Big Lamar on sometime,
We would love that. But yeah, so for the moment we're leaving 100 Sanford kind of over there on the shelf, I think is the right thing to say, wouldn't you, George?
Yeah, it's still an entity, Lamar, there's there's kind of his baby, you and him, and how y'all started that thing out. And I look at it, I can't see him staying away too long. I look at it as a break. He has to take care of family and home and stuff like that. And this stuff takes some time. It takes some time out of your day. When you're a father and husband and you hold a position at a job and stuff, every minute is precious, like literally, down to every minute. And so this show prep and 100 Sanford, the prep for that, and then doing the actual show, it takes out some of that time, So he has some stuff he has to tend to, and I wouldn't be surprised if, who knows, next season, whenever it is, that 100 Sanford pops back up. Until then, it's the Power G Show, Graham and George. The 2 G's.
Big G, and, regular size G.
Big G, not quite little G. You're not quite a small man, but regular size G and Big G.
I appreciate you saying that publicly so everyone knows.
Hey, everybody, no, Graham is not a shrimp.
Yeah, I mean, look, with Lamar, I think the way to look at it is, even Michael Jordan, he took some time off, went and played baseball. Came back, dominated top of his profession again. So I think Lamar will be back at some point, and definitely still in the text thread and all of that, right? So hopefully he won't stay gone for too long. But for the time being, man, we're rolling forward here, and I'm excited to be doing it. We are moving into the 2024 season. It feels like it has snuck up on us quickly. I guess, man, my question before we jump into all that is, like, what have you been up to? We haven't been on in a couple months. Tell the people where you've been at.
Man, whole bunch of stuff, man. First of all, I'm dad, so tending to these kids. Have taken a couple vacations since we last got on. Got away, decompressed a little bit. I've moved 2 daughters into college, one at Texas A&M Commerce over there in Texas, and one at, I hate to say it, I had to wear that ugly shirt on move-in weekend. LSU. I have a daughter in Baton Rouge now, so she moved into LSU. That was last week, and this has been her first week of class, and I think she might do some football stuff over there. Who knows? But we'll see.
Nice.
And yeah, man, that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been up to, and alongside waiting on this season. I went to Kirby's camp, saw a few cats, saw a few high school cats. Most notably, I call him nephew. My nephew one of my closest friends, David Jacobs, his son, David Jacobs Jr., was out there. He's a
Heard he's a
problem.
beast.
He's
Yeah.
a freaking beast. He's a problem.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a problem. He still has another year left. It's gonna be ugly. But yeah, he's a freak. He's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the top guy in this class. You know, but went to check him out and a few guys. I got to see and talk to Big Jaw. You know,
Yeah.
the project we got going on over there. I think it's gonna be interesting, man. He's a real basketball dude. You know, so that comes with basketball feet, basketball length. You know, he moves well. And I talked to him for a little while, him and his trainer, just to give him some tips and pointers. And I told him, hey, you're 6'10", you'll be fine if you can play 6'2". And if you can play 6'2", you're gonna be all right. You know, that was Jonathan Ogden's claim to fame. You know, his rookie year he played guard at 6'9", whatever. And it's you know, it's not a lot of huge tall guys down there. You gotta play low.
Yeah, you low.
You know, been playing guard, and he did it and transitioned out to left tackle, you know, and the rest is history. Hall of Fame. One of the best to ever do it, probably top 5 tackle. And and that's on the table for Ja too. So I got the chance to talk to him a little bit and just spend a little time up in Athens and just really anticipating this season, man. It's kind of like you're disappointed in last season, but at the same time it's like, oh man, it's kind of I'm pretty sure we'll get into it. There's some changes, some major changes, and it breeds some more anticipation, you know, just to see how new additions will do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so let's talk about that. Let's open it up. I mean, last season, look, it's hard to call last season a disappointment, right? I mean, Georgia was 12-0 on Saturday in Atlanta. They're going to go for their 40th straight regular season win, man. That's insane to think about.
Crazy.
But you know, they didn't quite get to where they wanted to go and win that third straight title, and they came up short in the SEC title against Alabama. So, like, what do we think they need to do to get back on top, right? Like, looking across this roster and looking at the changes, right? They brought in 4 new coaches, which is a lot considering the continuity Georgia and Kirby Smart have had. Like, if there's one thing that stands out to you right now here in August, what's the thing that you've got your eye
on? It's always tough to lose a generational player, and number 19 was generational. You know, generation upon generation upon generation. You know, haven't seen anything like him in all of college football in a while, actually. You know, we have a lot of guys that, you know, produced and then absolutely blew up as pros. But as far as like producing the way he produced at tight end on the college level before he even got to the NFL, hadn't seen that in a while from the tight end position. And that's going to be missed. That back end of the defense, that's a lot. That's a lot that left. A lot of talent that left, and a lot of, let me say, a lot of experience that left. So they got to replace those guys. You know, so that's about it. But I'm never, you know, since Kirby's been there, I haven't been concerned about the ability to replace guys that have left. It, you know, and just the way I think about it, it would be hypocritical for me to be worried, because I put a lot on how a team recruits, and you don't have any excuses when you stack in the cupboard year after year. You know what I mean? So I think that about everybody, and so I won't, you know, reserve that feeling, for my own team as well. We got enough. They definitely got enough to shoot. It's 12 teams in the playoffs. If you can't be
Right,
top 12
exactly.
and make something shake, then it's just not meant for you.
Well, and I think the interesting thing to look at across this roster, right? You do replace Brock and you do replace Ladd. There's also the argument that,
Yes.
those two were really only healthy and on the field together like once or twice last year. So, that I think kind of tampers a little bit of the concern on my end.
Yeah.
But let's talk about those new faces that you brought up from a recruiting standpoint. I mean, I think there's a few that I'll be watching to see when they get in the game on Saturday, if they get in the game on Saturday. Our guy Ellis Robinson IV, who we interviewed on 100 Sanford at one point,
way back,
number one corner in the country. Like, I think we will see him at some point in this game. I'm sure we'll see him on special teams, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see him come in and play in some packages as a DB. KJ Bolden as well, the safety. Like, that was, what every Georgia fan wanted late in the recruiting cycle was to flip KJ Bolden. They managed to come through and do it. Like, these guys are instant impact kind of players. I mean, they are 5 stars for a reason. They are 5 stars,
yep.
right? And you turn on some of that tape and those guys, those guys look different and they move differently. And in the case of Bolden, like, it'll be very interesting, I think, because, we talk about this roster and we talk about maybe where are the questions right now. And I think the secondary is kind of the first place that I look, right? Like, you've got Tyke Smith gone. You've got Kamari Lassiter now in Houston getting rave reviews from D'Amico Ryans and everybody in that organization. And then you also lose Javon Bullard, who was a really impactful player for Georgia in 2022 and 2023. So I think that's what I'm curious to see. We know Dalen Everett's back at corner. We expect him to be DB1 for lack of a better term. Who is out there aside from him? Will we see Humphrey or Harris? I think we'll probably see both at times, but those guys are both, they both offer different things. In the back end, like, I think the thing that'll be interesting is Dan Jackson is probably way more talented than anybody's ever given that dude credit for. I have on pretty good authority that, like, he is a 4-4 kind of guy. And you go back to 2021, which was the last time he was really healthy, and this dude had pretty similar numbers in terms of, like, targets to receptions allowed and how often he was tested in the back end. Like, his numbers compared pretty favorably to Christopher Smith that year. So I think he's capable, but I also am very curious, like, does Bolden just become too good not to play, right? Like, how will that whole thing play out? So
I think it's going to end up being it depends on what Bolden does from the neck up, how he retains everything. I was told a long time ago, I don't know if it has changed, but I was told a long time ago that defense is complex. It's a lot to put on these kids, and but that's how they get so hard to score on, because it's a lot. It's like the level of difficulty, when done right, gives you the ability to be a shutdown defense. And that's what they've been for the better part of Kirby's tenure. So you got that factor. If he, just with his athletic ability, if he's learning everything right and doing everything right all the time, then you're probably going to see some play from him. But the thing with Dan, he's long in the tooth now. He has all the experience. So to sit him down, you're gonna have to come with it as a youngster. You know what I mean? You're really gonna have to be on top of your stuff, and but it's a great problem to have.
No, for sure, absolutely. So, I mean, looking at this roster, and we've talked a lot about the defense here, and I think the big question for me, honestly, man, when I look at Georgia and kind of where they were in 2023 versus where they were the 2 years prior, like what happens on this defensive line is probably the thing in my mind where it's like Georgia's either capable of running through the table, right? And just even with the schedule they've got, beating everybody, or things could get shaky at times. Because they got shaky at times, I think, late last season. Like you started to see teams kind of figure out ways to attack Georgia on the perimeter with the run game against Missouri and against Georgia Tech. And then, you got to Alabama, and I think there were struggles to get pressure with 4 defensive linemen. What do you have any thoughts about that room and some of these guys that are back, or either be kind of young guys that are becoming older guys now?
I'm excited about the front 7 in general. I think they're young, spry. They got some speed over there. The middle linebackers are going to be tough to deal with. They got some guys, some real talent on the edge too, that played sparingly in the past, but I think it's time to take the chain off and let them go. So yeah. I feel like for some, I don't know, I feel it in my soul that they're gonna have more production from the outside this year. You got the Pimba and the guys. What's my guy? The other kid from Florida,
Damon Wilson.
You got what's my guy? 11. The Swiss Army knife.
Jalen Walker. Yeah,
Jalen Walker. He's legit.
Absolutely.
Who else? And not forget Michael. Like they got some dudes. I think they're gonna produce out there. You know what I mean? So if the inside can produce, and some of the guys that hadn't played much, if they can come along and really produce, because you got to understand, it's a program that requires a lot from its players, and any given year you'll have some guys that just aren't ready. Yeah. Again, you look up the next year, it's like, geez, where this guy come from? Well, he was getting ready. You know what I mean? He was getting ready. Yeah. It happens. Like we see it time and time again with this program. Is guys, pop onto the scene and you think they're new, and it's year 3.
That's right. No, and I mean, like, you got Kristen Miller, who was a highly recruited kid and flashed at times last year, but was also injured at times last year. And, it's like now he's a junior. And, look, I am never going to compare any defense to the one that we saw in 2021 because that was the best college defense.
Of all time.
Yeah, it was the GOAT college defense, right? But I will say there are some parallels, I think, when you kind of look at what Georgia brings back this year, in the sense of you've got some young guys that are becoming old guys. Like, you have a lot of kids that have had that, we've always known they're talented. They are talented. They're 4- and 5-star recruits. And all of a sudden now they're becoming juniors. And it's like, this is the money year. And if they go blow up, they'll be in the NFL draft in however many months. So I think that's the thing that would kind of give me solace up front for Georgia is I do think you have these guys that are maturing. I also know, truthfully, that there was a lot of these guys in Georgia's front 7, and even in the back end too, with Malachi Starks that played hurt last year and played through a lot of injuries and were nowhere close to their 100% version of themselves. And they did that because they could and because they wanted to be out there. But I think you're talking about very different players in terms of the level of explosiveness and what they can do sort of in the top end. What I'm curious to see is, Nazir Stackhouse was a really good player for Georgia in 2022, and 2023 he puts on some weight and kind of bulks up, and I think they wanted him to be more of a true kind of nose and sort of shade inside and play over the A gaps instead of being a 3 tech. And I don't think that was his game. Like I don't really think that's what he was kind of designed to do as a football player. And so I saw him on G Day and it was like, man, this guy looks totally different. He's fast and he's rushing upfield. And
let me tell you something.
Yeah,
it's real down in there, Jack. You slide over from that B gap to that A gap, the realness turns up a little bit. You know what I mean? It get real nasty down in there. Playing half a man is a different ball game than sliding down on that A gap and you got 2 guys on you. That tackle got his own out there, both left and right tackle. So you're not getting beat up a whole lot.
Right.
You know what I mean? And plus you get to go a little bit. You know what I mean? And what D lineman doesn't want to go? You know what I mean? You have to be built. You have to be built in stature and in the mentality to play down there in a 2-eye, a 2, a 0 nose. It's a different ball game down in there. And maybe that wasn't for him. And that's fine.
Right.
His skill set is different. Put somebody else down there and and see what they got. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
I think that's the thing for me for Georgia is last year they really didn't have that guy that demanded doubles all the time, and you saw everywhere else these guys in 2022 and 2021 they had some monster down in the middle that was just always taking up 2 guys and everybody else was left one-on-one to go and try and get after the quarterback and it allowed everybody to 2 gap and all those things. If Georgia can just get even 20 snaps a game out of a guy like Jamal Jarrett or that kind of body type that's 330 and can actually move, then that in my opinion changes absolutely everything in terms of how this entire defense functions, because those linebackers that they've got are as good, coming up the middle and blitzing quarterbacks as anybody in college football. And if there's a big ass nose guard there that's occupying bodies for them to blitz off the backside of, then that gets pretty freaky quick.
Yep. Those linebackers are fast, man. Number 5, I'm pretty sure he's gonna start learning what to do and when to do it. And I think, I don't know what type of kid he is, but from the physical attributes, I think we can see a lot of Wilson this year. I just have a feeling that once that stuff clicks, because he's so you talking about a kid that I think he might have been sub 11 in 100 meters or something like that. He was really fast in high school, and so
he was 10-7 100 meter.
Yeah, so that's smoking that linebacker. That's no doubt absurd, that linebacker. You know what I mean? And then you got CJ coming back. Those linebackers gonna be tough to deal with. Still got Smile. It's they got what it takes, man. It's just it's a game of inches, and it's you almost forget it. So you're disappointed in last year. At least I was, because my expectation my expectation was a three-peat because of what they put on the field. They had three-peat talent on the roster. It's hard to do. It's hard to win it all. That's why, back-to-back was it's like who does that? Not many teams. How many times had it happened before? I don't know.
I mean, it didn't happen twice since the 90s, Nebraska, I think, and Alabama.
Yeah. So like it's very tough to do. And it's tough as that is to do. A three-peat was on the table, hands down.
Yeah.
It was pretty much and
they did that despite the injuries and despite everything, right? Yeah. Exactly. And I think, I guess the thing that I would say is probably this is the moment for us to flip over to the offensive side of the ball, because like I think they were able to do what they did last year because they looked up and Carson Beck was playing as well as any quarterback in college football at times, right? And like you look at how quick he was getting the ball out and his processing ability and just how he saw everything. And he looked like an NFL quarterback, I think, for a lot of last year.
He was. If you look at how the draft panned out, he was probably a first-round quarterback last year.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Bo Nix is going, 13 overall, I think it was, or 12.
Drake May and those cats like that is, yeah, Penix. He was a first-round quarterback last year. So, they had what it takes.
No doubt.
And like you said, they produced, they fought through a lot, to end up undefeated at the end of the regular season, which was super impressive. Bama is just one of those games that was like, you look back and you're like, what?
Like, you do. Yeah, you kind of do.
What?
I mean,
like what? Like that team shouldn't have beat us.
Well, and I would maintain that, kind of looking backwards to look forwards, like I think even with Brock and Ladd banged up in that game, if Amarius Mims doesn't go out, I think Georgia probably loses that game. But when he went down, it changed everything from a play calling standpoint. And that is kind of a question for me, is like, you've got Xavier Truss projected to be the right tackle for this Georgia team in 2024. Good player. He's been in the program for, I think, five years at least, maybe 6 years now. And he's done a lot of good things. He played inside at one point in his career, but he has struggled at times against like that really high-end edge rusher, which is not meant to be a huge knock on him, because most people struggle, most tackles struggle with Dallas Turner, right?
Right.
But you do have Ernest Green on the other side, who I think is a guy that can kind of go one-on-one and get his wins in against a future NFL edge rusher. I'm curious to see how things shake out at right tackle, because with how quickly Beck gets the ball out to begin with, and just the rest of that offensive line returning, like, it feels like if they can get pretty high level play from Truss, then it's going to be really difficult to stop this offense.
Yeah, I think, and they also have the, especially when the room is full, and when I say full strength, they have the ability. They're going to have the ability to lean on their running game too.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
They still have a plethora of tight ends as well. So I'm very excited to see like the approach from this team with how many key players that were lost to the NFL and whatnot. I'm interested to see the approach. Like, what are we gonna do? Because it's different. Like, it's different when you can line up a Brock Bowers out there and you know you have a win. Like it's a win. Like
Yeah.
there's nobody on the other team unless you bracket them. There's nobody on the other team that's gonna one-on-one, hold that guy. And so like when you know you got a win out there, it's different. You know what I mean? But that's not a knock on what we have left, because you go from Superman and Brock Bowers to Oscar Delpa's pretty damn good.
Might be a better
So
blocker. I mean, there's
yeah,
things that he
so,
might add to your offense from a skill set standpoint.
so you go from that to a guy that, you look at it as a drop off, but at the same time, it's a different type of player, but a damn good player.
Have
And then
you
got
seen?
Effect.
I would say, have you checked out his tape, the Stanford kid? Have you watched him?
Seen a little bit. He's
fast. I mean, like
good.
there's,
Yeah.
I mean, he's the only other tight end that I'm aware of who was taking 50-yard end arounds to the house like Bowers was.
Yeah, he's
I'm curious.
You got him, and who you still got? Lucky,
Delp, and that'll be your three right there. Is Delp, Jurasic, and Lucky. And I think Lucky is probably the most explosive of all of them. I think you'll probably see him standing up as a Y out in the slot, and I bet he surprises. I actually have kind of thought that we may see him do something on Saturday that just surprises a lot of folks, because he was very, very explosive spring of 2023 and got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I think kind of struggled coming back from the injury a little bit, but if that dude gets going in a straight line, like he's a problem. I mean, he was slicing up Georgia's defense as a true freshman coming into spring practice a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
so
he could be pretty good, and I'm confident in his makeup. I played with his brothers and uncles. I played with his dad and uncles, and they were all tough. Tough guys. Get down and dirty, and I'm pretty sure they've taught him right.
Well, so call your shot. Carson Beck, number 1 quarterback taken in 2025 NFL draft.
I think he can put. If he isn't already, I think he can play himself into that. I saw some stuff lately, which doesn't matter because you got to take it with a grain of salt and see who it comes from. But like some people, I think I saw a couple people that may have had Gabriel above him. Was it Gabriel maybe?
Oh, really? Interesting.
I'm trying to think. Might have been Gabriel. I'm not sure. But he's been I've never seen him no less than the number 2 QB.
Yeah. That sounds right to me.
And I think he can play himself into the undisputed number 1, if he repeats last year. He can be the top guy, it's I think it's funny how the game has changed now with the type of QBs they want in the league now.
Right.
That can do multiple things, arm and legs.
Yeah.
And when they used to want the statue,
right.
Drew Bledsoe standing up there, can't move. Like that's what they used to want. And now the game has changed.
Absolutely.
And so and wow, he's not a statue, but he's also not, Caleb Williams.
Right. He's not. Yeah. I mean, he likes to throw on the roll, but he's not creating off script very much. Yeah. If ever.
Yeah. He's a different. So I think all of the teams in the top of the draft, or that were in the top of the draft last year, people have their guys. You know what I mean? I feel like maybe the top QB may go late this year. But there are some guys in that class, and he has a chance to be the top one for sure. Like I said, he was a first round quarterback last year, and so I don't see that changing.
Is there anything you feel like you look at and it's like this is the thing that you would most want him to improve on before he goes through that evaluation process and that draft process?
I can't really think of anything, man.
That says it right there. Then
he played really good last year, man.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any. I can't remember coming away from a game thinking, man, if only Beck had played better.
For sure. No, I mean, I think the only thing that I look at is, I thought he was as good throwing the ball up the seams last year as anybody in college football. And I thought that he was as good, honestly, just kind of working intermediate ranges in general and throwing kind of in breaking routes that maybe, he was really good at throwing guys open and letting the ball be there when they came out of their break instead of having to see guys open before he could let go of it, which is, to me, I think the number one quarterback skill. Like, my opinion is that if you can give me that, it makes up for a whole lot of other things that you may or may not have. But I did think his deep ball, Georgia, and I think some of that was Beck, some of it was the receiving core. He had some drops downfield, but Georgia didn't ever really get those those true deep balls kind of going in a real way. And I'm curious to see it. He was 22 of 54 for 729 on 20+ yard throws last year, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks. And he had some beautiful throws that were over 20 yards, but you didn't see that real home run ball. And if they can add that into the offense somewhere with an Arian Smith or an Anthony Evans or Dom Lovett, that just, I think, makes them kind of impossible to defend at that point. That, if they pop the lid off the top of this thing in that way, then I don't really know how you deal with, the Branson and all the things that you got to deal with closer to the line of scrimmage. So that's my curiosity, really. He did have, some 4 drops last year on some of those deep throws, and they just never quite found that rhythm. But if they start hitting, he hit Dylan Bell on one in the Orange Bowl that was outside the numbers, over Bell's outside shoulder kind of thing.
Man, that catch too.
Yeah. And it's if they start doing that with regularity, then
it's crazy. It's unstoppable.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Like I said, you look and you jogged my memory then, man. Beck made some throws last year.
Yeah. It's some Florida.
That's
one to
NFL,
lad.
That's NFL. That's NFL throws, man. That's top tier quarterbacking. Some of the throws that he made last year. So, yeah, man, I'm glad he's on our team. You know what I mean? So,
no doubt. All right. Well, let's spin this thing forward and talk about Georgia-Clemson, Mercedes-Benz Stadium coming to your town, man, ATL. Look, there's a lot of storylines in this game, and I'm gonna start back with 3 years ago. Georgia opened with Clemson, as we know, and at the time, these programs were in the exact opposite positions they are now, right? Georgia was trying to get where Clemson kind of was and had been. Clemson had been to 6 straight college football playoffs, won 2 national titles over that stretch, and Georgia had recruited really well, but they couldn't quite get over the hump, and they needed to go and win a game against a real deal, bona fide, top program to prove that we're not just selling cotton candy out on the recruiting trail. And what was the lasting kind of legacy or mantra of that game. I think it was, you're either a leader or you're not, right? That's what Kirby said after his defense went out there, held DJU and all those guys to 3 points and had 7 sacks, and basically announced to the world that like 2021 Georgia defense was about to be your worst nightmare. So for Clemson, right? Like since that time, they are 30-10. Before that, I believe they were 79-7 over the 6 years prior. They've fallen off. They've fallen down a level, I think is fair to say. Last year was the first time they hadn't won 10 games since I think 2010, if my memory serves me correctly. So this is a huge opportunity for them to come in and totally reverse that narrative in 4 quarters on Saturday. 3.5 hours, all the shit that we've all been talking about, Dabo, can kind of fly out the window. For Georgia, I think you've got a shot here to basically kind of put like the death nail into a team that let's be honest, like recruited your backyard for a decade and built a national title winner with a lot of guys from Georgia on the roster. You know, came and got Deshaun, came and got Trevor, Peach State kids, came and got a lot of talented players out of the state over the years. And I think this is very intriguing, man. Like you look at college football and the regionalism and just the soap opera of it all. Like it's hard to ask for more out of an opening week game.
Listen, Georgia has a chance to. I think it's one of those games where Georgia can obviously they're the big dog, you know, in this matchup. I kind of wish Clemson hadn't fallen like this so much, because it's kind of like, you know, we're expected to win this game. I haven't heard much in favor of Clemson from anybody. You know what I mean? I like those games. I like beating up on people, but, you know, I wish that Clemson was, you know, looked at with more respect from the general public for this game, because I think we're going to beat them up pretty good, and I wish we were beating up a really, really good team. I think this is a chance for Georgia to go ahead and to come from last year. The last game they played last year was 63-3. I think they have a chance to come back in this year and start off the season, and for the rest of the country to be like, oh shit, here they go again. You know what I mean? Like for real, like okay, we got to deal with Georgia again. You know what I mean? Nothing's changed. You know what I mean? So I think they have ability for that to be the case.
Well, so, and I think you look at this game, there is sort of this perception that you just pointed out that Clemson, the party's over, right? The flip side of that is like their high school recruiting has been pretty good. You know, it's been top 10 classes all along. They are still, you know, high up there in the roster composite rankings and all of that stuff. But I can't help but go down their roster, George, and look at the positions where they have question marks and just some of the areas and the ages of some of these guys. I mean, I was looking last night. They are, you know, they're not taking any transfers in, as we know, but it's like that has kind of led them to be in a spot where they only have 26 juniors and seniors on scholarship on this team. And you're coming into a game against Georgia. Well, I got to get your take on this, because I don't know if we ever talked about it on this show. Like the whole Dabo, I'm not taking transfers. And, you know, before that, it was, if we're going to pay players, I'll go do something else. And it seems like he's embraced NIL on some level. I mean, I know that Clemson has NIL working now on some level, but how do you feel about like Clemson and the 3 service academies Army, Navy, and Air Force were the only FBS programs to not take any transfers this year.
You can look at it two ways. You can look at it as not smart for the fact that, you know, they weren't going to field a powerhouse, you know, as is. So it probably would have been in their best interest to bring anybody in. Georgia lost one game and brought in how many did we bring in? We brought in a few guys.
Yeah,
you know
a handful. So, right.
You know, so, and you know, now does Kirby stack the cupboard with transfers? No, but they go and get what they need to fill spots and what they feel complements what we already have. Or like I said, that's one way to look at it for Dabo. Another way to look at it is maybe more confident in this team than, you know, we are from the outside. You know, now, like, who knows? You know, maybe on paper it probably doesn't look like it, but maybe he wants to stick with the continuity of what he already has.
Sure.
And I guess the culture of what he already has, not having to indoctrinate, you know, some new people. You know, there's a kind of a funny word for that program, indoctrinate. You know, it fits.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's two ways to look at it, man. If they feel like they have what they need, so be it. You know, I'm not gonna lose no sleep over it. You know, if they want to stay, you know, how they were, if they feel like they had some guys in the wings that were waiting and chomping at the bit to help out this year, you know, so be it. We're gonna see if it works.
Sure. Yeah, we are for sure. And you know, I think well, let's dig into it, right? I mean, you look at this, you kind of go up and down the rosters here, and for Clemson, the defense last year was good, right? I mean, the defense last year had they were close to top 10 nationally in just about like every major statistical category. The offense was shaky, very shaky at times. I mean, like they were, I think, 121st in the nation last year with just 6 yards passing per attempt. They had a 29% success rate, George, when faced with 2nd and 7+ or 3rd and 5+. I mean, they really struggled to find any sort of like go-to presence at wide receiver. Their number one target was Brittingstool, a tight end who still had like less than 10 yards a catch. They just kind of spread the ball around a lot of guys. Their slot receiver had 52 catches for 531 yards, but 150 of those came against Syracuse. So, I mean, like you look at his stat lines in some games and it's just like no explosion. Like you come down and you're like, oh, he had 7 catches against Georgia Tech. I bet he had a big day. And it's like, nah, he had 41 yards. That is the question, right? I think for, you know, starting on the offensive side of the ball for Clemson, they bring in some guys that do have some ability at wide receiver, but they're true freshmen. You got Bryant Wesco. You got this kid, TJ Moore. Moore's a big kid out of Florida. He's, 6'2", 6'3", close to 200 pounds. Wesco has got some length as well. And to me, man, it feels like if I'm looking at Clemson, there's almost 2 routes you can go in this game on offense. You can either try to ball control Georgia and misdirection things and run some RPOs and hope Klubnik's legs can kind of pick you up a few first downs along the way. But also probably accept the fact that when you get into the red zone, things are going to be real, real tough and real, real tight. or you can try to push it and you can say, we're going to put our chips in and we're going to try and get aggressive. We're going to let Garrett Riley cook and we're going to go try and win this game. And I'm very curious to see what they do because Klubnik's arm strength and some of his numbers in terms of where he likes to throw the ball, I have some questions, we'll say, about his arm strength downfield. But, have you dug into any of this? Do you have any feelings on Clemson's offense and their ability to threaten Georgia? Do you think there's a chance they can kind of do some things in this game?
No.
All right. Well, that was simple enough.
It is
man.
what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Klubnik he hasn't won anything since he's been there.
6 yards per attempt, man, is rough.
Like they're not a better team than they were with DJ. And DJ's not
Not any good either.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they traded air for air. So
pretty much.
who knows what's in store for quarterbacks are a big deal in college, well, on any level. So who knows what they do in the future, but they're not about to be world beaters with that quarterback. It's just
look, man,
it is what it is.
They're not, I think they have issues at quarterback for sure, but they do bring some different guys back. They get some guys healthy again on the offensive line, and their center graduated. So, this isn't a total 1-for-1. I want to be clear about that, but I'm pretty sure 4 of the guys that are going to play, or 3, at least 3 of the guys that will start for them on Saturday played in that game against Kentucky to end the season last year. Dog, they gave up 37 pressures to Kentucky.
Yeah.
Georgia gave up, I think, 6 pressures to Kentucky last season when they faced each other, just to kind of put that in perspective. And, it came from everywhere, man. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
So that's another thing I was going to bring up, that I don't think they can block us. I don't think they're going to be able to block Georgia. So it's just going to
that makes things pretty straightforward.
Listen, we're looking at something. You're looking at it's going to be, and it's crazy to try to compare them to Oregon because they're nowhere close to Oregon.
But who compared them to Oregon?
No, you can't. What I'm saying is going to be that type of game, even though Oregon ended up being good and Georgia still waxed them. You know what I mean? So this might not, it's going to be hard to beat them as bad as we beat Oregon, but it's going to be that type of game.
Fair
it's
enough.
Going to be, I think it's going to be over pretty soon.
Pretty quick.
Yeah. We left Oregon game early, I was with somebody. I was with Charles Brandon.
I left that game at the start of the fourth quarter, man.
Yeah.
I was out of there. Yeah. So you don't have any concern about the new faces in the back seven for Georgia. You're not worried about.
That could be concerning because when you have a Power 5 team, like I said, Clemson is Clemson. Are they the Clemson of old, of the heyday? No. But when you can recruit a top 10 class, there's bound to be some guys on the roster that if you make mistakes can pop them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, that's a momentum shift. And then that, I'm pretty sure, I think teams, fan base get kind of scared of Georgia as of late. So I don't know how well Clemson is going to travel for this game. You would assume they would be in the house, so that you don't want momentum to shift.
Right.
But Yeah, they of course they could test us. You know what I mean? But I think they're going to be ready. It's always great to have, um, as far as good players in the back end like Malachi, but also um, experienced guys. You got him and Dan back there. You know, so
For sure.
it's always great. It's always great to have guys like that. And Dalen is not. He's got a lot of Everett. Dalen Everett's got a lot of experience on his belt now too. He's put in a
Yes.
position like a Tyson Campbell, who
Right.
signing massive deals late. Sometimes you just have to get your feet up under you and play and play and play, and next thing you know, you're pretty doggone good.
Well, I mean, you saw what Lassiter was last year. In his first year as a starter, he gave up more yardage, more receptions than ever did in 2023, right? Like that's Kamari Lassiter.
Yeah.
Kamari. Yeah. So, I mean, like, I think you look at this and this is just how it goes at Georgia, right? You normally have one guy on one side that's got some experience and kind of in that second year as a starter, they always just take this leap. And then on the other side, you have a guy that's sort of in the same shoes that first guy was the year before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in terms of just raw, pure talent, man, like the cornerbacks that Georgia has right now with, Everett and then Humphrey and Harris. Like Harris is a freak, dude. That guy is like 6'3", and he's got 78-inch wingspan, and he's out there running high 4.4s, low 4.5s, and he's got ball skills and he's got fluid hips. Like that kid will be a first-round pick. I would bet anything on that. So I mean, and he might not even start on Saturday. I'm sure that he'll play, but it's a good chance Humphrey starts. He's a year older, right? Year wiser, all that stuff. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia plays three corners at times this year and kind of does some different things with that star position or try some different things over the slot, depending on who they're facing and what that team's got, But yeah, you start digging into it, and I think Georgia, they have been pretty much the best tackling defense in college football for years now. And you look at what Clemson has on offense, you look at the quarterback, it's like, I think that Klubnik has enough of an arm to throw some jump balls up. And like, I think they have to try like the back shoulder fade with these, big freshman receivers they've brought in. But like, dog, I'm just not. If the plan to be explosive and score touchdowns in the red zone kind of comes down to stuff like that, it's like, that's hard to, maybe it works once. Maybe it even works twice. Like I could see them scoring 14, 17 points. I have a really hard time seeing them, like I think if things go really well for them and they're plus in the turnover column, then maybe they get into the low 20s, but like Georgia, if you flip over to the other side of the ball, man, it feels like Georgia can win any type of game. Like all we've heard about all fall camp is how good this offensive line looks and how good this running game looks. And they've got this quarterback that we just talked about, like could be the number one pick in the 25 NFL draft. And everyone's talking about the run game, which tells me that they can be multiple. They can be explosive on the ground, through the air. And I think that will be the very fascinating thing is like, does Georgia do they want to play tempo, or do they want to kind of put the surrender cobra around Clemson and just strangle the life out of them and walk out of there with a 2 to 3 touchdown win and call it good? Or do they want to make a statement like that Oregon game back in 2022?
I think the Oregon game was a statement, but at the same time, I think they were just playing ball. They were just playing football. Like, played a couple young guys. The backups got some burn. Like they just played the game. They played the game as is. I don't think he tried to embarrass him or anything. I think this game, I don't. We'll get to predictions.
Well, so I mean, let's get to predictions. I think we've talked. I mean, like, go ahead. Yeah, you hit it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know if they get over 10. I think 13 is probably where I'm hanging. So let's say I think Georgia, of course I'm going to take Georgia, and I take Georgia I like 38 13.
Damn. All right. Well, I mean, if that happens, I think we can call it a wrap for the Dabo era. Pack it up. Take it back. So I look at this, and like we were just talking about, I'm very fascinated to see how Georgia goes about this. I feel like week 1 is always the hardest to really picture and get a good predictive analysis on, because we just don't know what these teams are yet, and we don't really know what their identity on offense is going to be. But we have seen Bobo and Beck work together before. I think the key for me in this game, I think Georgia's running back room is going to be thinner than they had hoped or expected coming into the season. We know Roderick Robinson's going to be out. How do I put this? I feel pretty sure that ETN is going to be out, but we'll see at game time for sure. Still, though, Georgia has players in the running back room this year who can catch the ball in a way that they did not. Their best running backs last year were not like natural pass catchers and receivers. So the Clemson style that they like to play of like blitzing Georgia heavy up front, I think the solve for that for Georgia is to get these running backs out in the flat and on some angle routes over the middle and really like work things side to side. And you go back and look at Clemson last year, they got hit for some big plays on, end arounds and like pre-snap orbit motion type stuff. And I think Georgia will probably try to open up and like get the ball out on the edges and go from there and kind of loosen Clemson up and then see what the counter punch is and keep counter punching that. But man, you look at Beck last year, and his average time to throw on all pass attempts was 2.2 seconds. And that was the fastest of any Power 5 starter. And when he got it out in under 2.5 seconds, he was 80.3% completion for 8.2 yards an attempt, 17 touchdowns, and 1 pick. And I mean, he got it out under 2.5 seconds on like over half of his pass attempts last year. So if the plan, like what Clemson has done for years on defense, is just, bring multiple fronts and blitz people and play man on the back end. And if they do that on Saturday, they are going to get carved up. Like that is the wrong guy to do that against, in my opinion. And, it could look all sorts of different ways. Maybe the tight ends get involved. Maybe they do some things in the screen game. But I am curious to see if Georgia kind of gets some big pass plays going. Like, bro, Clemson is starting projected to start Tyler Venables at safety, who is Brent Venables' kid. And I mean, like, I mean, it's not that he's a bad kid or he's a bad guy or anything like that, but like that ain't what you want to run out there against. That's not the way. Yeah.
He ain't Dan Jackson.
So yeah, exactly. I mean, but I think that a blowout is on the table in this game if Clemson wants to like try to play to win. I think if they kind of play to keep it close, then Kirby might oblige that and Georgia might oblige that. But I don't think Clemson really knows how to do that because of where they've been and what they think they are and where they think they need to go back to. So I'm going to settle in the middle and say Georgia wins 35-17. But even if that, I think that there is a chance that like if Clemson can't run the ball some on first down in this game, most games we're always talking about third down. Like Clemson's third down offense was so bad last year with Klubnik, and I don't really see why it would be much different. That like if Clemson can't get 5 yards on first down consistently, this thing could get real ugly. There's a lot of ways this game can get really ugly for Clemson really quick. I'm struggling a little bit with the idea of like what Clemson used to be versus what they might be now, but I think Georgia handles them and covers the spread. I'm going to stay at 35-17 and call it kind of an 18-point victory. But, a couple things change and it's like 42-10 pretty quick. And we're having some conversations about William Dabo Sweeney on Monday morning. So we'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I can dig it.
You like it? All right. I mean, we need the vibes to be right. So is there any other games on this slate that you that you're interested in on Saturday? I mean, we got some regional matchups. Go ahead.
Well, I'm always interested in the Florida, the Big Three banter. The record is going to be 1-2 for the Big Three at some point this weekend. So another one is going to lose. There's been one down already in Florida State. We kind of saw that coming though. Georgia Tech. Well, slow down, Brett Key. I like his style though. I'm man enough to admit when I like a man's style. I like his style. Former old lineman. He's
got the right stuff about him.
Bringing that attitude. He's what they needed. You know what I mean? And I hate that they got it. But anyway, they put Florida State in the blender. I'm looking forward to the Florida-Miami, man. I've been seeing the trash talk and, online, and it's going to be interesting how that one goes. I think it's two head coaches that, they're trying to show what they're worth. You know what I mean? It's essentially like it's put up or shut up for both of those guys. So there's gonna be an interesting one to watch. I don't know when it comes on, but that's one that's on my radar. I don't know about
Florida Miami 2.5 point kind of spread, right? I mean, like it's gonna be tight game. I think that's a 3:30 game, isn't it? Yeah, Florida Miami on Saturday. Yeah, 3:30 Eastern, so you can wrap up the Georgia game, get watching what's going on down there. But I kind of think Florida's going to beat them, man. I do. I just got a feeling they need to, because with the schedule they got coming down the pipe, if they don't get this one against Miami, then like it feels like bowl game might be off the table, and this is as close to a must-win game as I have maybe ever seen in week one for a team that doesn't have national title expectations.
Right.
It's going to get ugly. The other game I think I'm most interested in is Texas A&M Notre Dame. That's an interesting kind of regional matchup, right? Like very curious. College game day coming to town, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
You got any thoughts on that one?
No, but I didn't realize that was happening. That's in Texas.
Yeah, in College Station, which is, I mean, it'll be hot and they'll be loud and excited. I think it's a 6:30 kickoff.
it's one of those one of those, I guess you can call it a prove it game for, Notre Dame and the head coach. He seems to be a pretty good coach. He had a few times last year where he showed that. So it's gonna be interesting. You got to go down there to College Station and pull out a win. If he can do that, I think his name shoots up.
Yeah, absolutely. Freeman is young buck, right? And same for Elko. Elko's an old guy, but what he did at Duke was really impressive. I mean, he beat Clemson last year in their opener, and he comes back to, he was a defensive coordinator at Notre Dame at one point in his career. So like, it's really interesting to see, because I think both these guys are good coaches, but one of them can kind of take a big step towards the playoff if they can pull this out on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I like A&M. I think. What'd you say? I'm sorry.
So you like A&M?
Yeah, I like A&M. I think A&M's kind of my sleeper team for the season. I think that they still got a lot of that talent that Jimbo recruited, but Jimbo never really had the organizational skills to manage it. And I think Elko is like the right type of personality for them. That's a program that's always been really loud without really doing anything. And I think he's kind of the opposite. I think he's more of a doer than a talker. And I think that's what Texas A&M football needs. So it'll be interesting to see, but like, they're kind of on my radar as a potential playoff sleeper. I'll put it that way. Yeah, we'll see.
Interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Well, all right, man. Anything else we want to talk about before we get out of here?
Nothing else, man. We talked about
practice.
Things. We talk about practice.
That's right.
We talked about the big dogs, man. Georgia, Clemson. Looking forward to that game. Looking forward to tailgating. Wasn't sure what I was going to do, but figured out and be out there by the stadium.
Yeah, right by the stadium, Players Lounge. BMW, it's free. Come through if you don't have a ticket to the game. Be TVs and all that stuff set up. I am covering the game, so I'll probably have to go in pretty early, but I definitely will be around before I have to go in, and probably come through and hang out afterwards too. So yeah, y'all come see us. And Friday night at the Ivy in Buckhead, we'll be doing get together as well. And if you use, hold up, let me find this code real quick. Trying to give you a code. Let's see. Where's it at? Sorry, guys. I wasn't ready for this. Oh, there it is. If you use code DC24, you can get 20% off on the event. There's be food, drinks, all sorts of stuff there. I believe it starts at 8 o'clock, runs to at least 10 or longer, and we'll be doing a little panel as well. We might try and talk Big Foster coming down as well. We'll see what
you never knew.
All right, man. Well, I'll see you. I'm coming your way. I'll see you in the ATL.
See you Saturday, man.
You got it.
Yes, sir. Go Dogs.